And welcome back to the Morning Blend. A recent UCLA survey found that more than 70% of first-year college students reported being homesick. Being homesick is a very normal part about it, but there are some guidelines for students as well as parents to help cope with those first years, especially that very first freshman year and those college jitters.
That's right. Elizabeth Brzeski is the Associate Dean for Student Affairs at Carroll University in Waukesha. She's here with some survival tips for all first-year college students. Good to see you.
Good morning. Good morning.
I was joking, like when I went to college, my mom always said, she's like, it was time for you to go. and I was ready to go. But that's not the case for everyone. And you still get homesick. It's not like I didn't miss home, so I kid. But this is a real big issue for a lot of students, is this homesickness that leads to almost, inability to continue to attend college.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive because really you're calling home, you want mom and dad to come pick you up, and really what needs to happen is you need to stay. You need to really engage, really those first 6 weeks. I think a lot about, when I drop my little kids off at kindergarten, and they're crying,
summer camp,
and I'm crying, and the teacher is saying, no, keep them, they'll be fine, let them stay. And you know that as a parent, eventually they'll be okay. College is the exact same thing. The stakes are significantly more high, but it's the same thing. Those first 6 weeks, if you can stay on campus those first 6 weeks and meet friends and get socially integrated, you're going to feel much more at home. And thinking about, if you pick up your kid because they're crying and they want to come home and they're homesick and you drop them back off, you're making them go through that transition repeatedly. It's kind of like ripping off a Band-Aid multiple times.
Great
So they need to stay.
Yeah. Is there, as a parent, I wonder this, is it good to acknowledge the homesickness and say, I understand you're sad? And I wonder for parents, because I was desperately sad when my oldest daughter went to college. I always wondered, should I share that with her or should I keep that to myself?
Yeah, I think now that your kid is an adult, you need to start speaking to them like an adult. And so just like when they're little, you share age-appropriate information. It's important. I think if you can be relatable and talk about if you went to college and talk about your experience, or maybe not let them know how sad you are or how much you miss them, but it's okay to say, hey, can we set up a regular phone call once a week so that I can connect with you? I miss seeing you every day. If they're really homesick and you're close enough, maybe stop by for a lunch someday, but don't take them home. Don't take them home. That's really the important thing.
Is this a symptom of parents and kids being closer these days? I mean, I often think about the fact that kids and parents have a different relationship than they used to have back in the day. And I think that's a positive thing, but I wonder if that's making more of a difficulty here.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that. I went to college 20-something years ago, I hate to admit it, and I wasn't as close, and cell phones weren't really a thing yet. And so I just kind of had to go off, and I didn't get to come home till Thanksgiving. But now students, I hear students talking about, I talk to my parents every day, or I text them constantly. And that's okay, but in those first couple of weeks, that can make it even more challenging. So again, setting up maybe once a week, every couple days, to know that you're going to check in at that time, I think is probably going to help you transition much faster for both ends, parents and students.
I think it's a double-edged sword with being so connected.
Yes.
And I think about how many kids are commuter students these days, or maybe they still live at home and travel to school. What are the challenges that they face?
I actually argue that it's more important for the commuter students to participate in those events and activities that are in place for you early on, because I actually just interviewed 10 students at Carroll who were commuters end of their sophomore year, and every single one of them said they wish they had gotten involved sooner, because the research shows that if you get socially connected, you're going to do better academically in the long term. So those commuter students who think, oh, it's just like high school, I can drive to class and go home, that's one way to go about it, but you're probably never going to feel super connected. So go to those events and activities.
Because they go home and a lot of their friends are away at college too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you're almost on the outside then if you're the one that's traveling back and forth or going home on weekends, even just the weekend students who go home.
Yeah, you miss out on so much.
What about international students? Because you guys have a lot of international students at Carroll University. I can imagine that's a whole different thing.
It is. So I think it's really important for international, just like resident students, to bring some artifacts from home, bring pictures, bring things that are going to help you make your residence hall room feel like a safe place for you. And we've learned that food is really critical to our international students. And that's something that's so just in part of who you are. So do some research ahead of time and look at what your food options are. You may need to bring some stuff. You may need to arrange care packages to be sent home or sent from home so that you can have something that's going to help you feel a little bit more connected to home.
In terms of tips for first-year students, what's your suggestions in terms of balancing fun and studying? Because I think it's very easy for kids to fall into one or the other category and not have balance.
Yes, it is very easy. And so what's really important is, again, the research shows that if you get socially integrated, you make friends, you get connected on campus, the academics are going to come. So you need to, in the front end, when you're just doing your syllabus early on in your first year and you're really just learning the ropes, make friends, get comfortable on campus. And then after those 6 weeks, of course you need to study. That's when you can really kind of develop those habits and those mechanisms. Use your resources. There are people on campus who are paid to help you transition. Make them work for their money. I think that's the most important thing you can do.
Well, and I like the fact you say, just say hello,
Yeah.
because, you know, other people too don't know anybody. And I do feel sometimes when you don't know someone, you feel like you're the only one who doesn't know someone. But in the reality, as a freshman, nobody really knows anybody.
Right, yeah, finding comfort in knowing you're not alone. That person standing in front of you in line in the dining room doesn't know anybody either. It may look like they do because they've all come together, but they don't know anybody either. And so in those first couple of weeks, people are so open and receptive, and you may be a really shy person, but that person in front of you may be as well. All you need to say is, hey, I'm Elizabeth, where are you from? And that may be all you need to just start that conversation so you have somebody to sit with at lunch that day.
What if the homesickness is very, it's kind of like permeates a lot of things and you're feeling really down? Do you suggest that people use on-campus services and resources for that?
Absolutely. Much like there are people who are paid to help you transition, almost every institution that I know of also has personal counseling. It's free to most. It's almost always free. So take advantage of those mental health counselors. Take advantage of those professionals. That's what they do. They help students all the time, and so many students are dealing with that to try not to feel the shame associated with needing those resources. That's what they're there for. That's what you're paying tuition dollars for. So use it. Use it well.
It's great
All right.
advice.
I love it, Elizabeth. Thanks so much. You can find out more about this at themorningblend.com. Maybe you need to share it with a new student or one heading off this next year.
Great to see you.
You too.
Thanks for your
Thanks for having
time.
me.
Good advice.